Hello, welcome. I'm your host, Peter van der Velde, and I'm project leader of this JCI Change Your Game 2020. Before we start, some house rules of this webinar. First, the cameras can be stand on, but only the microphones should be turned off. Questions can be written in the chat during the speaking time and will be asked by me afterwards. If you are experiencing a technical failure during this webinar, do not worry. You can zoom in with the same link and then we'll let you in. This project is founded as a tool for our members to deal with change. Maybe like you or your business were hit by the lockdown. But it's certain that the crisis will have more and more a gigantic impact on our game we are playing. So it's time for a new game. With this project, we give confidence that change can bring a positive narrative if we create change today. Who are we? Well, JCI is an international NGO with more than 200,000 members worldwide. The organization provides development opportunities to 18, 14-year-olds in business, community, internationalism, and trainings like this project, JCI Change Your Game 2020. JCAs are trained in organization to deal with change and to become leaders in the world we live in today. Therefore, I invited Mr. Wouter Danckaert, owner of Wouter & Company and past president of JCI Belgium, who will show us how creativity in business and on personal level can help you through this crisis. As we heard from previous speaker, it's the perfect time to live your passions or use your talents. By now, you made maybe a list of habits or skills you would like to change. But maybe you are stuck in the process to find new ways of revenue or to be more valuable for your boss. So I'm very happy to announce that Wouter Danckaert is helping us with practical tools. May I present you Wouter Danckaert with How to be Creative in Crisis Times. Wouter, the floor is yours.
Trying how to launch the technology here. So far, so good. Okay, off we go. Yes. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here in this webinar that was titled How to be Creative in Crisis Times. Well, I would rather say, how can we be creative in all times? When I look back at my career, I started a while ago at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And there one of the quotes that was everywhere on the stationery, on the walls, was look at things from different angles. Well, what I would like to do with you tonight is to let you look at your company, the organization you own or you work for, from different angles. And look at how can we be creative on these different angles or on all the levels that are there in our company, in our organization. And to guide you with that, I created the Convincing Company Compass. The past 10 years of my career, I have merely spent in the startup world. And I discovered a lot of new things as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, as a teacher, as a coach for other companies. And what I have discovered there, I have brought together in this Convincing Company Compass. What I would like to do with this compass is to help organizations to determine their unique positioning, their unique way of doing business, of positioning themselves in the environment they're active in. Today, I will only have the time for a short introduction to the compass. And if you would like to know more afterwards, don't hesitate to contact me through Peter or through other channels we have at JCI. Now, to explain you how the compass works, I would like to take you all on a road trip. On a road trip on the road to business success. Let's start. First of all, I would like to introduce to you the compass. The compass has 4 directions. We start with the aspirations of your company, of your organization. Then we will look at the approach or the business model of your organization. Thirdly, we will look into the arguments you use to convince others. And the last item will be about the attitude you yourself, as a member in your company, as a member in your organization, you should take to be able to bring out the message to the world. Let's start with the aspirations. And therefore, we first go to the aspiration mountains. When we are in the valley and we will look at this nice mountain range, we will think about what would be the highest possible peak we would like to conquer. And to determine that, we are using a growth pact. This growth pact we are using also as an organization, as a company, to determine our aspirations, the way we want to grow as an organization. As you will see during my presentation, I am a big fan of acronyms. So let's start with the first acronym, the PACT, which stands for 4 elements that we are trying to fill out when we want to build our growth pact. First of all, the purpose. The symbol for this purpose is the flag. When you go mountain climbing, you have a flag with you because you want to put your flag on top of the mountain you are climbing. And this flag symbolizes the reason why you are doing this. Is it because of nationalistic feelings that you have a flag of your country? Is it because of something that you overcame? Then it's a flag of an organization you want to support. So your flag symbolizes the reason why you are climbing this mountain. Well, the first question we are raising ourselves and where we can think about is our why. Why are we doing the things we are doing? What is the purpose of our organization? And definitely in these crisis times, this is one of the major issues that we should tackle first. Why are we here? Because that will be an answer to this question, will be something to help you out, to give you direction on what way to go to. The second step we take is when we look at this mountain range, we will choose the one mountain that we want to climb, and we will choose our ambition level. Is it a 1,000 meter? Is it a 5,000 meter? Or is it Mount Everest? Where is our ambition level? What is the highest possible peak we want to aim for? So what is our goal as a company or as an organization? What do we want to achieve in the long run? What is our big, hairy, audacious goal? What is the one thing that we say that if we would be able to reach that, yeah, that would really make a difference. That would really make a change. And if we have chosen our ambition level, our peak, then we can determine the course, the way how to reach that peak. And we can determine the course up front, but of course, while you are heading towards the top, there will be a lot of circumstances that will be changing, a lot of unknown things that will happen to you. So it is good that you upfront already think about what will be the elements that I take with me to make decisions on how to move forward. What values do I take with me that will guide me on my way to the top? The last part is about the targets. When we are climbing a mountain, we will have to bear in mind that there will be some stops to be made. There will be some base camps along the route. These are the targets in between that we take. And the better you determine your targets, the better you will always have something to look forward to. When things are getting difficult, it is much easier to look at the first target that you want to reach instead of only looking at the top that you want to reach, because this top can be very high and very far away yet. So when you have targets that are much closer, much easier to reach, it's also easier to get there and to celebrate this first victory, this first step. So when you start being creative at this level, on the aspiration level of your organization, bear in mind the purpose, the ambition level you want to reach, the course you set out, and the targets. I would like to invite you now, if you have some ideas about this, to go to the chat and try to figure out for yourself, for your organization, the organization you are working for, what would be the purpose of your organization. I'll give you a couple of seconds, but don't hesitate to keep thinking about it while I'm moving forward. When we have been thinking about our growth pact, about the way we want to grow our organization, when we set out our strategy, then we can reach out for the next step. The next element of our compass is the approach, is the way how we are doing business. It is talking about our business model. How does it look like? And therefore, we go to the approach business park. I don't have to explain you what a business park is like. It's a place where a lot of companies are already there. And there you come. And you say, okay, now I also want my place here in this business park. How can I, in this existing environment, build the factory of the future? That is the question we are raising ourselves. And I would like you to imagine that you put there a little factory, and in this factory we are building, or we are setting, profit-making machines. And we're building our first profit-making machine. The profit-making machine exists of 6 elements. We always start with the P, with pain. Not your pain, but the pain you are seeing, discovering, feeling at your customer side. What is the pain of your customer? And the better you can describe the pain of your customer, the better your profit-making machine will run. It's not about your pain, it's about the pain of your customer. What is he or she suffering from? And it's more than only a problem. It has to do pain. Because when it's painful, they are willing to get it changed. They are willing to make a difference. They are willing to pay money for it. And that's, of course, what we want to do. We want to build a machine that is profitable. It's not a money-making machine. It's not about the money. It's about being profitable in the things we are doing. So first, we have to discover the pain. When we discover this pain, we can build a resolution. It's an answer to this pain, an ideal answer to the pain of your customer, of your potential customer, of your target group. And this ideal answer, we are looking at it, and we are also trying to make sure that there is a clear evidence for that answer. Is it science? Is it your experience? Is it a trial and error that have made you come to this answer? But make sure that you know what this answer is based on. When you have described your answer, it is more like general and maybe a little vague, but it gives an answer to the pain of your customer. And from that answer, we will do the next step and create an offering, a concrete product or service, or product and service that is linked to that answer. With that offering, we describe in detail the value that we will bring to our customer and how this value will look like. The next step of describing our business model is then to look at the format. We have now described our offering, the product or the service or the combination that we will bring to the market, but the format, then we will ask ourselves, how do we bring it to the market? How will be our pricing in this market? How will be our way of doing marketing? How will we be selling our product? What will be the channels that we are using? And how will we make sure that what we are doing, that we can repeat it, that we can create several revenue streams out of our format. When we have described this offering and format, we know what we are going to do, then we can talk about our infrastructure. What do we need to make sure that we deliver this offering in this format? What people do we need? What materials do we need? And what money do we need? What investment do we need to create this? This is the infrastructure that we need to be able to run our business. And that is our profit-making machine. But our profit-making machine is not there in a silo, it's not in a stable environment. There is a lot of turbulence working on our machine, which makes that our machine might be out of tune, might be not working as we want it to. So to keep an eye on this turbulence is really important. To look at what is our competition doing, to look at the environment where we are active in, to look at political interventions, and so on and so on. This is the turbulence that can cause problems in your profit-making machine. So in your little factory, you have now created your profit-making machine. But of course, change should be part of your DNA. You should always be thinking about what's the next big thing. What is the next machine that I'm going to build? And especially in these times of crisis, it is very important to look ahead and to start building, to start designing new profit-making machines. When you have a profit-making machine in place, you will nurture it. You will make sure that you replace the oil from time to time, that you have some refurbishing to do, that you will make sure that your machine is in the best shape possible. But sometimes it's not possible anymore to make your machine a profit-making machine. When your machine turns to become a non-profit-making machine, to be non-profitable anymore, then you should abort it. And you better do it sooner than later. Because when you abort a non-profit-making machine, then you create space. You create space in your little factory for these newly designed machines. You create space and mental space because people are not involved anymore with machines that are not doing the right things. You also create monetary space because you are not spending money anymore on machines that are not bringing you return on investment. So make sure that that change is part of your DNA at all times. So when you look at your business environment, when you look at your approach, that you're continuously renewing your business, and that you're ready for tomorrow, that you're ready for today and ready for tomorrow. I would like you now to invite you to go back to the chat, and there I would like to go back to the pain. And in your own business, when you look at your customers, what is the main pain you notice at your customer side? What is the pain you are trying to resolve? And how clear is that for you? Again, I give you a couple of seconds to come up with a swift answer. Okay. Let's move to the next element. We will be looking now at the arguments. The arguments we are using to convince our target groups, to convince our customers, to convince other people we are dealing with in our business. And therefore, we go to the arguments lab. In this arguments lab, we create our own success formula, the way we are getting success in our business. And the success formula we are using is the HIT script. It's a very easy to understand formula where you can always relate to build your arguments when you want to convince customers, when you want to convince other people. We always start at the solution. What is the solution you are bringing to the person in front of you? What is it that you will change, that you will add for that person? The next step then is to talk about your own credibility. Who are you as a person? Who are you as a company that you are able to come with a solution to the problem of this person in front of you? Make sure that all the questions that this person or this organization or the people representing the organization in front of you might have about you, that you take these questions away from the start. The next step we take in our script is we develop a reasoning on why the solution that you have offered is not in place yet, why there is a problem at this point. Make sure that you there show that you understand the problems your partner in this discussion is having. And only then, when you have shown interest, when you have shown an understanding, then you talk about your implementation of your offering. That's the first time you really say how you are going to deliver the solution that you have been talking about. That is the next step, linked to the reasonings, all the reasons that you have mentioned, why things are not in place. There you will give a solution in your offering. Then, of course, you give a proof of concept. You show where and how you have done this in other places. And then you are digging into the situation of your partner, your discussion partner, and you look at his situation in particular and to come up with a solution for that. This is a general script you can use in all circumstances to convince your target groups, your customers, to use your arguments in here. When you look at the title on this slide, you see HIT scripts with an S between brackets. And that is on purpose, because it's very important that you create your script depending on who is in front of you. Because it might be slightly different for one person to another. When you have a person in front of you that is a CEO of a company, you will use other arguments, you will use other solutions than, for instance, a buyer, or for instance, someone of the technical department that is using your solution. They have other issues, they have other targets, they have other ways of looking at their business and their problems. So make sure that you slightly differ your script depending on who is in front of you, who you are talking to. Okay? For the next exercise, I would like you to think about this solution and think about the latest customer you want to approach. Who is that person, and what would be definitely a solution for that person? How would you make that person score? How would you make that person? Um, how would you make a difference for that person? Meanwhile, I'm going to take a look at some answers in the chat.
Hi, Wouter, if I may. If you're not an entrepreneur, you can also think in function of your business you're working at. What is your business dealing with? How can you think in function of your business? Just write the chat.
Yes, indeed, Peter. Thank you for this add-on. Of course, you don't have to be a business owner, or you don't have to be a sales representative yourself. Everyone in the organization is sooner or later an ambassador of this organization. So when you go out, when you meet people, you are an ambassador. So you have to know exactly how you are able to represent your organization. So think about it in that sense as well. Okay, let's move on to the next. The last element of our compass is about attitude. It's about the way you are behaving in the different steps you take towards your customers. And therefore we go to Attitude City. It's, yes, we go out now, we go out in the world, and we will show ourselves. And therefore it is important that you mix your own signature cocktail, that you create your way of presenting yourself, of behaving yourself. It's your own signature cocktail, so it's also looking at your authenticity. The authenticity is both the authenticity of your organization you are representing, but also your personal authenticity. It's not because you are rather shy that you have to be a clown. Or on the other side, when you are a very cheerful person, well, be the cheerful person. So make sure that you find your own attitude, your own signature cocktail. And we are going to apply this attitude with a focus on the funnel that we are creating, because we're trying to bring the people that we meet through different stages in our sales funnel, in our marketing sales funnel. And therefore we have different steps. And the first step, the first step is flaunt your way in. Do whatever it takes to get the attention. Especially in these times, these crisis times, where it is difficult with this lockdown to go out to network events or to go out to fairs or stuff like that. It is definitely very important that you make sure that you flaunt your way in, that people notice you, that people see you, and do that in every possible way. There are a lot of ways that you can use nowadays through the social media, but also through more traditional media. For instance, nowadays it would be very interesting to go back to the mailboxes, to the post mail, because there is not a lot of mail coming in today. So you will be able to flaunt your way in much better through these kind of traditional ways. Also, when you use the social media, make sure that you do it in a good way, that you make sure that you have your authenticity shown in the way you enter the various social media, and also that you use the right social media for your purpose, for your business, for your target groups. Secondly, when you have the contact with your audience, with your target group, make sure you overwhelm your audience. And overwhelming does not have to mean that you create a big show where you blow them away. Yes, it's always good that you blow them away, but not only with a lot of show, but also with content. Make sure that your content is good, is excellent, stands out, that you know what you're talking about, that everything that you have been preparing is there, and that you can show it to your customer, that you know your business. So overwhelm your audience. In the next phase, we talk about comfort and conclude. When you have had this first contact with your audience, in these times, it will often be in an online meeting or through a platform, then you have to follow up on it. When you have had this contact, make sure that your potential customer feels comfortable with you as an organization, with you as a person. So make sure that you give them a lot of information, that you give them the right information at the right timing, that you do what you promised to do at the right time. And then you can give them comfort, and then you gain their trust. But it's also important that you conclude. And conclusion is here, can be both ways. It can be that you indeed close the deal, that you come to an arrangement and that you close the deal, that you can start working and charging for what you do. But on the other hand, make also sure that you conclude when it's not coming to a deal. When you feel that people are trying to get a lot of information, a lot of your knowledge, a lot of your time, but they are not willing to spend money, make sure that you also conclude to not go any further, to stop collaborating, to stop working together with that person. So conclusion can be both ways. Whether you go and close the deal, or you conclude to not move on and to not go further with this potential customer. But conclusion is important. And then the next step is, in the case you have closed a deal, is that this deal is only an entrance ticket. So now it's time to underpromise, overdeliver. What you have promised in your deal is only an underpromise. Now it's time to overdeliver, to do more, to go the extra mile and to do a better thing. A couple of weeks ago, at the start of this lockdown period, there were a lot of companies, shops, that turned from physical shops into web shops. And then people expected that, okay, now I have a web shop and everything will go easily. Well, there you can make a difference nowadays when you over-deliver as a web shop owner. When you go to the next step, when you go the extra mile. It's just by showing interest in your customers, by giving the same experience as they would have when they would have come to your shop, by making sure that they have the same information, that you do whatever it takes to make this customer happy. And that is something what actually did not happen a lot during the last couple of weeks. People turned from a physical shop to a web shop, but they forgot that they also should make sure that they can deliver the same quality of service and in a web shop as well. And of course, it is difficult to compete against bol.com or Coolblue or whatever, but you can make a difference in a personal service, in picking up the phone and calling that customer, in making sure that that customer is helped in the right way, like you should have done it in a physical shop. So that's just an example of how you can over-deliver in these times, in this environment. And of course, focus wouldn't be complete here without an S. And for the S, I go to the word sprezzatura. Because during the whole flow of your funnel, you should always bear in mind this word sprezzatura. It's an old Italian word, and it was used at the court of the king, where people who were always doing politics were very successful, the people who were mastering the art of sprezzatura. And the art of sprezzatura is about moving along in bigger crowds without other people letting notice that you are also doing politics. Well, the same goes in business. Make sure that you have a lot of sprezzatura, that people see in the way you behave, in the way you act, in the way you do your business, that you own your business, that you own the knowledge that is necessary for your sector, that's not necessary for your business. I got to know this word, sprezzatura, from a friend of mine who is a mixologist who makes cocktails. And he's also often in contests where mixologists compete against one another. And in this contest, he told me, we are not only looking for the best cocktail, for the nicest cocktail, for the best ingredients, but also we are looking at sprezzatura, on the way the person that is competing, the mixologist that is competing, on how that person is behaving on stage. Is he nervous? Is he sweating? Is he forgetting what he was going to say? Is he stumbling? Or is he very self-assured? Does he know what he has to do? And does he act in a way that everyone believes that that person knows how to make this very difficult and very original cocktail? That is really important about the sprezzatura. So make sure that you learn how to master this art of sprezzatura during every stage of your funnel process. So, as I have introduced, this is a very short introduction to the Convincing Company Compass, where we have looked at various stages, and I have tried to offer you some models that can help you to be creative in different stages and different angles of how looking at your business. And the aspirations, where do you want to go to with your business? Build your growth pact to make sure that you have a clear plan, a clear strategy where to go to with your business. Secondly, when you bring it to the business model you are using, make sure you build your profit-making machine, that you look at it now at the existing profit-making machines you have, but also think about the next big thing and build your next profit-making machine right now. When you are looking at the arguments you use to convince customers, build your hit scripts. Make sure that you, when you are approaching someone, when you are having a meeting, when you have an online call, that you have your hit scripts ready, that you know how to tackle the arguments that you are going to use to make sure that that person will first be listening, secondly, will be convinced about the fact that you are there for that person. And lastly, we have looked at the attitude that you will take along the way in your funnel. You will always keep the focus on your funnel and on the next step that you will have to take. And your attitude will be always focused towards that next step, to make sure that every effort you make is made in the right direction of your funnel and that the focus is always there. So with these tips and tricks and these models, I wish you all the best in your business. I wish you a lot of success during this crisis period, and of course a lot of creativity to rethink your business, to rethink your organization, to rethink your position within the organization, and to make a very nice start during this period and not wait till everything is over. Now is the time to act. In this crisis period, you can make the difference. So use the tools, and if you would have questions, if you would have will want some help, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wouter, for this beautiful presentation. As we are waiting for some questions in the chat, I would actually like to make some advertisement for our business, because we have maybe we are opening our businesses from the 11th of May in Belgium. So we created a real business week with topics like business networking, LinkedIn, branding, tips and tricks to restart your business. So have a check in our events and subscribe. So Wouter, are you ready for the first question?
Yes, I am. Fire away.
No. All right. Your first question is, start with why, purpose-driven entrepreneurship. But how do I find my purpose and how can I
Peter, there was a slight technical problem. I couldn't hear you till the end.
No, no problem. I will repeat. It's about the why. How do you write, for example, your why in the chat?
Okay. It was about 10 years ago that we were all presented the golden circle with the why, how, what. And it was a very interesting thought that we should rather look at the why of our company instead of always focusing on the how and the what. We should also think about the why. Of course, it's an interesting thought, but how do you start with it? How do you build your why? I have seen also in the chat that, and of course, maybe it was a little bit too fast and too short notice to make sure to come up with a clear answer on this question. But for a lot of companies and for a lot of people, it's just a difficult question to answer. So what I tried to do was come up with an answer, and I have extra slide for that. And of course, there is an acronym here as well. And to come to your purpose, we use this acronym AIM HIGH. And the first step is a bottom-up approach. With your team of people that are running the business or that are really putting the business forward, look at your intentions and try to align them. Align your intentions on why did you start in this business as a person. Why did you enter this sector? Why are you in this company? Why did you even study what you studied, and that led you to do this job? So what were your intentions? So that is on an individual level, and bring that together to see what is the red line between all the people that are pulling the company forward. So it's really the bottom-up approach. We look at every individual intention. Then we have the top-down approach, where we look at the world and we look at what are the main issues, the main challenges that are in the world. And for the people involved in JCI, we have been discussing this already several times as the sustainable development goals. The sustainable development goals are actually a very nice way of looking at this part. When you look from your company to these challenges we have in the world, and you look how are we as a company dealing with these challenges, what are we trying to impact here, how are we trying to make a change in these goals, that really gives you another perspective and another way of looking at this question. Bringing them together, the bottom-up approach from the intentions of every individual and the top-down approach about how do we have an impact on the world, then you can master your mission. And a mission, and that is something I want to give you all to take a look at, in the easiest way to determine a mission is, if you want to change X in the world, Y should be done. To contribute to Y, we are doing Z. And if you then fill out X, Y, and Z, you have a basic mission. So if you want to change X in the world, Y should be done. To contribute to Y, we as a company do Z. X, Y, Z, fill them out, and you have your basic mission. So if you do this exercise from the intentions to the impact and bring it back to the mission, then you have a very clear view on your purpose, and then it's getting more and more tangible on your own why, and try to find it out.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question of Freya Sweden. Wouter, I'm just a starter since 2 years. I can feel wanting to be a better entrepreneur. But without this model, it seems impossible to survive. Now I'm still hungry for hearing your creative solution and how to survive a crisis. To me, it's completely different than building your what, how, why, and business strategy. What is your advice?
Thank you, Freya, for this question. Of course, I understand that there's a lot of information on only half an hour. But what I try to do is, when you want to look at your organization nowadays and you want to survive this crisis, this is really the moment to look at your organization from these different angles. But you look at it from a strategic point of view and from your why, that you really make sure that it's clear. Where are you heading for? Where are you heading towards? The better you have that clear, the more easy it becomes to make the right choices. The right choices in your business model, the right choices on the way you approach people, the right choices to your funnel. So that is why it is important to look nowadays at your why. Of course, it's also the moment to be creative and look at your business model. So look at your approach and your profit-making machine. Your current profit-making machine, does it still work? Or is the crisis hitting you so hard that you should come up with a new profit-making machine and start from scratch again? Then I would say, if you start from scratch again, look again, where is the pain? Where is nowadays clear pain that you can solve? And then build a new profit-making machine. If you say, okay, I can still keep my current profit-making machine, my current way of doing business, but I have to make some slight changes, well, do that. Make those changes, but always make them in line with the pain, and of course, again, in line with your own why, with your own growth path. Next goes for your arguments. In these days, where it's becoming much more difficult to communicate, to present yourself, to have the opportunities to contact new customers or already existing customers, it is important that you have your hit scripts ready, that you rethink your hit scripts and make them very, very clear, that you have more success, or that the chances of success are higher when you are contacting people. And then, of course, the last thing is, when you are using or when you are active nowadays in this crisis period, it is even more important that you do it in a very structured way, that you keep your focus on the funnel that you are building. And you can do it in a very easy way. For instance, for my funneling, I use Trello, which is the free version of Trello. But there I can really make it very visible for me what is in what contacts are in which stage, and how do I bring them to the next stage, and what will be my next move toward these contacts. So I make it really visible for myself what will be my next steps. Sometimes I even just take a piece of paper and to write it down for myself, which contact is in which stage of my funnel, and what is the next step I have to take to bring them to the next step in the funnel, to make this lead a prospect, to make this prospect a customer, and to make this customer a happy customer that stays with me and that I can sell more. So that is really important, that you really visualize it for yourself during this crisis period. Is that enough for an answer at this point, Freya? If not, I'm very happy, very open to have a discussion with you. So don't hesitate to contact me afterwards or in the next couple of days or weeks if I can help you out.
Freya is satisfied, she said.
Okay.
Wouter, I have a question from Christine. Maybe you can go in the chat because I had some comments that my internet is playing games with me.
Okay. It's a long question, I see. Yeah, working in events is a tough one these days. Social. That's of course a very existential question that you raised there, is about, of course, first of all, the sector you're active in. Secondly, about how to make a difference. Of course, the events business is at this point very difficult business. And there it's, again, I was in a discussion a couple of weeks ago with someone also active in the events business. And with that person, I was thinking about going back to the real basic question. And the basic question here is, what is the pain why people go to an event? They want to meet people. They want to discover new opportunities. They want to have a good time. So all these basic questions, going back to the pain that you're trying to solve with organizing an event, these pains can lead you to new ways of doing business. What can you do in an online setting? What can you do in a setting where in the near future, when the lockdown is not that heavy a burden anymore, but we still have to keep the social distancing and stuff like that? How can we deal with that? How can we make sure that we come up with new creative concepts that deal with this problem? Yesterday evening, I was looking at the container cup. I don't know if any one of you have seen it, but I was really amazed how people of VT4, which is for the foreign people, which is a TV channel in Belgium, they have created just in a couple of weeks a totally new sports event, which is called the Container Cup, where famous sports people from Belgium are competing against each other in a container. So they drive a truck to the sports people their homes. They do the sports in the container. Everything is of course well cleaned and disinfected, and then they go to the other one, and then they make a competition out of it. So for me, that is the real deal when it comes to creativity. You can say, oh damn, there is no opportunity to do sports or to come up with a sports format in these days. Well, they did it. In just a couple of weeks, they created a total new concept. Well, that is for you, Christine, will be definitely also the challenge nowadays to discover, to create new concepts, to create new ideas for events, online events, offline events that will deal with these challenges. And of course, I see your reaction in the chat. Of course, you will always do it in line with the needs of your customer. So corporate events, I think that you can be very creative with that, together with your customers, to come up with new ideas. Are these internal events? Are these external events? If they are internal events, well, these days you can play around with the mouth caps, you can play around with a lot of new technologies where people can meet each other, where people can hang out, where people can do crazy stuff. So if you can make a blend of the online and the offline, which is called in trend analysis the phygital way, digital and physical combined, I think you can come up with very new original concepts that you can create nowadays. And if you do that and you have good concepts, you will also immediately tackle your other question, that you have something unique then. When you have something unique that creates value, there is, first of all, it's difficult to copy you. Secondly, when you create value, you can also ask money for it. So then also your burden of giving the organization of events to students or to cheaper providers of services. When you have unique concepts, when you create value, you will make sure that you make the difference there and that you will stay in business also during and after this corona crisis.
Great, Wouter. I have a next question. It's also in your chat. It's about how can I start a new business model?
How can I start a new business model? Well, actually, when you start a new business model, of course, you start with the pain. You try to determine what is the pain you want to tackle. Is there a certain target group you want to reach? Is there a certain business you want to change? Is there some opportunity you see? Of course, when you look at the pain, you look at it from your own perspective. So the next step will definitely be to make an analysis of your pain. You check with this target group, what is your way of looking at this pain the right way? Do they perceive it in the same way you do it? Or what is their perception of this pain? Actually, this is something what I'm doing in my business for my customers. Sometimes they have an idea. I'm very good in my current business. I'm doing very well, but I want to do the same thing I do, but for a total other sector. And I think they are to approach them in that or that way. But then my first step is always, okay, you don't have to tell me too much yet. I want to go with an as open mind as possible to the potential customer. And at first, I'm going to talk to that customer and ask them questions about this pain. First of all, is there a pain? Do they also perceive it as a pain? What is the pain exactly for them? How do they feel it? When do they feel it? How often do they feel it? And also, how much does it hurt them? How much does it hurt them? Because then I have a feeling on how much are they willing to get a solution? How much are they willing to pay for it? And this questionnaire that I'm doing for at several customers gives me a very good image, a very good idea of what is the exact pain in the market. Not on what is the idea of my customer on that pain. No, I have heard it from the target group we are aiming for themselves. And then the next thing is, with that information, you go back to your customer and you start building a business model. And therefore, you can also use the suppliers of your own suppliers, of your suppliers of your customer, depending from what perspective you're looking at it. But with this group of people, you start looking at, okay, we know what the pain is. How are we now going to tackle it? What will be our offering? What will be our format? What do we need money-wise to make this thing happen, and stuff like that. So you have some workshops and build this business model. But then I would recommend not to go immediately to the market with it, but first go back to this sample of the market that you have been talking to do your pain analysis, and then do a validation of your business model. Before you spend any money on marketing or on production, on whatever, first go back and ask your target group this business model. If we would realize it, would you buy it? If not, why not? What is missing? Or if yes, what would make that you buy it? Is it a special thing that you like, or is it general for your sector? And if you have had these conversations, then you can, and you have your business model validated, then a majority of your sample says, if you make this, I'm willing to buy it, then you can start with production, then you can start with marketing, then you can roll out. But make sure that you do your homework very good, very well from the start, before you spend too much money on marketing, on communication, on production, of things that you are not sure about, that the market is willing to pay for it.
Okay, thank you, Wouter. I have a next question in your chat. I have difficulties to convince clients.
Yes.
Which argumentation would work?
Okay, thank you for this question. I also have a slide for this one, and I would like you to take a look at this. What you should do when you are building an argumentation is about thinking, how can you help your customer to score? It's not about you scoring. Of course, you want to score yourself. But when you come up with an argumentation, you should look at your customer and think about, how can I help my customer to score in his business? And score that makes, think about arguments where you can help your customer to get his sales increased. Secondly, his costs. How can you help to get his costs down? His obstacles removed, his risks mitigated, or his exposure optimized. So these are the 5, let's say, elements or themes where you can look at arguments. But there's also something about the logic in the word score. Because when you only have arguments on the right-hand side, on the side of exposure, you have only arguments that are linked to, yeah, what I do, I can optimize the exposure of my customer. These are rather weak arguments. So you should be, or if you only have these, they should be very, very good to convince your customer. If you have, at the other hand, arguments where you can say, dear customer, when I come to you, I can make your sales increase, then you have very, very strong arguments. Because customers will, first of all, listen to arguments that talk about increase of the sales and less about their exposure. Of course, there are always exceptions who are more interested in their own exposure than on their own sales or the sales of their company. But these are, in general, when you come up with arguments and you notice, when you do this exercise and you notice that most of the arguments you are using nowadays to convince a customer are at the right-hand side of this model, rethink your argumentation and try to come up with more arguments on the left-hand side. The second thing I want to add here is also think here, when you look at the word customer, it's both the company where the person works for, you will see, and the person, him or herself. Because it might be that you have very good arguments that you can help the company to get the company sales increased, but it might also be that it does not help the personal position of that person in front of you. So if you can also make sure, if you know, for instance, that that person has a bonus that is linked to the company results, yeah, then you will have a hit. But if that person is more interested, for instance, in getting some obstacles removed, because that person is really frustrated about the practical way how things work in his business or in his factory or in his job, then you should focus more on this, on these arguments. So it's both on arguments on the company that you want to convince and arguments that you bear in mind of the person that you want to convince.
Okay, thank you very much, Wouter. Well, we still have room for two last questions. I have the last one, or last one here. How can I easily start with thinking in a funnel?
Well, as I have mentioned before, the funnel thinking, the most easy way of starting with is take a blank piece of paper and write down the various steps. Steps of, okay, I don't have contacts yet, so I have to flaunt my way in. Secondly is, okay, now I'm having a first meeting, a first contact, because meeting does not always have to be a personal meeting, or in these circumstances, an online meeting. Meeting is also a touch point. So if you have an online platform and a person contacts you through that platform, that is also this first meeting point. So one is then the way how you are going to overwhelm that person with the right content at the right time. So that's the second part, the second step. Third step is then about, okay, we have had this first contact. How do I now comfort this person and come to a conclusion? And what is the stages, or what actions do I do there? And the last part is then, okay, we came to a conclusion, or this person or this company or this potential customer will always be potential because we're not working together, or this became a contract and now I have to deliver. So this is the most easy way of starting with it. And of course, when you add then several channels, it becomes more complex. A second step might be, as I indicated before, to use Trello, which already gives you a very nice overview. And then the next step might be when you really want to include online marketing funnels, if you want to include various steps in sales funnels, if you want to include project follow-up steps and stuff like that, then you can go to more complex setups. Then I think at HubSpot, for instance, or other systems like that, that are really working on this funnel and combining various steps in there. It might also be good at that point to ask professionals and experts to help you with it, to set it up correctly, to make sure that you don't miss any data and that these data really are linked one to another, that you come to the right conclusions when you evaluate. But then, of course, you're already in a third or a fourth stage of your development. Start simple, start thinking in terms of funnels, using just a piece of paper or Trello. That will already help you to get these thoughts straight, to make sure that every step you take brings you to a next level, brings you to a next step in your funnel focus.
Thank you very much, Wouter. We have to conclude this evening. I hope you could write one or two things that can apply or that you can apply now to create that change. And I hope you have more confidence thanks to Wouter's presentation. You can find all the indications of Wouter on his website or later on our website. But we, as JCI Change Your Game 2020, we would like to wish you a very pleasant evening, and maybe we see you tomorrow, after tomorrow, or next week in our business week. Have a pleasant evening, and good night.
Bye.